Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, we got a special treat today. I am absolutely fired up. I love this guy right here, my man, Rob Smith. This is the founder of Stop Woke.
Yes.
This man's probably super nervous to be on my podcast with a few thousand subscribers. He's been all over national media. This guy is a legend.
Yes.
We just got to spend a few days together on a retreat. I love this guy so much. I'm excited for you guys to hear about his personal journey, his mission, things he's working on. He's a decorated war veteran. We're super grateful for that. Founder of Stop Woke. Can't wait to get into that.
Yes.
I love this guy with my whole heart. Welcome to the pod, Mr.
Thanks,
Rob
man.
Smith.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You know what? The 2, 3, 5, whatever thousand subscribers you have, like, dude, those are people that I don't know. You know, your audience is so like into development and family and faith and fitness and all of those things that like I'm into kind of in my personal life, but I'm trying to bring that part of my personal journey into, you know, the stuff that I'm doing.
That's right, man. Well, I love it, dude. He's the only guy too that, man, you know, he'll make my arms look real small. This guy, he's trying. We're gonna hit the gym after this.
But see, like, and I was thinking about this the other day when we were doing the outdoor workout. Like, I want that lean, ripped look because, like, you got the lean, ripped thing going on, and I can't. Like, it's so hard for me to be lean.
So this is the grass are greener because I want the size. Man.
Yeah,
so, you got to water your own lawn.
Yeah, everybody, you know, the grass is always greener. Like, the bigger guys want to be lean, the leaner guys want to be big.
It never fails, man. Well, dude, for anybody who might not know you out there, could you just give kind of a rundown, man? Who you are, what you're about?
Yeah, man. So, Rob Smith, obviously. Iraq War veteran. So for me, you know, I was raised lower middle class in Akron, Ohio. At 17 years old, I went into the military to find a better life, to go to college, to do all these different things. I did 2 tours in the Middle East, 1 tour in Iraq. I was, you know, I got involved after college, and I was a media buyer. I got involved in left-leaning politics, and I kind of like came to light. Then I started getting involved in right-leaning politics, like all that stuff. And if you guys follow me on social media, like I would say Insta at Rob Smith Online, like that's the most visual part of the journey with all the news commentary and the, you know, photos with politicians and all the DC stuff. But as of right now, you know, and Ty, you and I talked about this over the retreat during the weekend. I'm sort of in this journey where when you're a political figure, when you do a lot of politics, you can kind of lose yourself in that world, right? And we've talked about, and I haven't really spoken of this, you know, openly, like on my pod or in my platforms, whatever. Obviously, gone through a divorce over the past 3 years, right? So I'm like, I'm building myself up. I'm also kind of like on a sobriety journey right now, and I'm on a whole foods eating journey right now. So I'm like on all of these different journeys right now. And when you guys look at me and you look at, you know, this body used to be about 50 pounds heavier. You know, so that's a part of my journey that
awesome.
I hint at a little bit, but I want to start digging more into.
I love that. And I think there's so many facets of you, man. And I always say this, you know, like, dude, the first time I watched you on a podcast with Zuby, shout out to Zuby.
Yeah.
I watched that a couple times and I thought, this guy's just got this magnetic personality, got this magnetic smile, inviting you in, and you got so much more to share than just the political side. So can we start there and say, man, I mean, dude, you're flying around on private jets, you're going to all these big events, you're doing all these crazy things, but what's the life like in politics? And I guess, when did you hit that moment where you're like, I kind of want to do more than just be in this 24/7?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm coming off of 2022. It was one of the roughest years of my life. Like, it was just bad, you know. There was a lot of things that the politic thing happened for me very quickly. Like, I had put in the work for about a decade in other ways, but when I came out as conservative, quote unquote, coming out as conservative in 2018, it was like a rocket. Like, it was like being shot out of a cannon. And all of a sudden, like, I'm doing stuff with Turning Point, and I'm like with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, and like I'm being interviewed by Dave, like all of these big players, you know. Then, you know, I go on with Turning Point. That becomes my world, going on the college campuses, doing all of this stuff, like going to the conferences, and all of this stuff is great. When it happens so quickly, you lose elements of yourself in it. And so all of this was happening for me while my marriage was disintegrating. All right. And so there was a period where I was so completely defining who I was in the political movement, and, you know, being on the campaign for Trump, or, you know, being on the private jet to go stump for Trump, or saying that, I'm the conservative guy and this is the target and this is what it is, and all of that stuff, and you lose yourself, and you lose yourself in the lifestyle that comes with being a political figure as well. You're going to these events and you're, at the Trump hotel back in the day, like you're at the Trump, or you're at these political events, you're at these fundraisers, at these multi-million-dollar mansions with all these people. The booze is flowing, the food is like all of that stuff. And I wasn't grounded enough in myself to like really know what I wanted to do with this. So there's a lot of things that fell apart last year, and I kind of had to, and I don't blame anybody else. There were contracts that I lost, there were friendships that I lost, there was everything blew up in 2022, right? And I went through this depression after this happened. But here's the thing, this was nobody's fault. Like, these things were my fault. These things were my doing. I was not grounded enough in myself and in the reason behind what I was doing, that I was connecting to the superficial elements and aspects of that life, instead of saying, I've been given this gift of all of this access to all of these connections, and what am I going to do with that?
Man, that's a powerful reframe. And I think everybody can learn from that. And, man, I went through a really rough divorce a decade ago or so too. And we talked about that. Where I do think once you kind of come full circle, it gives you an opportunity to say, here's my baseline. I'm pretty low at this point, but now I can rebuild exactly how I want. And I love the fact that you're not saying, well, it's this person or that person. It's like, hey, I'm going to look inward. I'm going to build myself up exactly how I see. I want to compartmentalize. Maybe I'm great and I've been blessed with these talents. I'm going to use these to honor God and go forward this way. But I also need to make sure my bucket's filled.
Because this is the thing, right? And I had to really come to terms with a lot of stuff last year. Like, you have to look in the mirror when something does not go well, or when you lose something, or you're losing contracts, or you had to step away from some things and all that stuff. Like, I had to look back at that year and see what mistake did I make, and what mistake that I don't want to make again. And it was, I would say, and I haven't really been that open about this to my audience, but I will tell you, and I will share it to your audience, and we'll get this stuff out to mine as well. I went through a pretty deep depression. And it was it was a good 6 months, because what happened last summer, and I'm blessed enough to be able to afford to do something like this, but I left contracts and I dropped and contracts dropped me in all these different things. And I said, I'm just going to run away. So I'd go to Europe for a month, and it was an amazing trip. But it wasn't necessarily a trip of self-discovery. It was a trip of a lot of indulging, right? So I indulged for a month, and then I come back, and then I came back to basically nothing. And I had to rebuild everything, almost like, I wouldn't say from square one, because it's not the platform, but I have to rebuild the income streams, and I have to rebuild some of the relationships. And then some of the relationships I had to just really release. And then also I had to say, okay, so this is what I have now. How can I be a better person professionally to the partners that are investing in me to do a job for them? All right. So how can I do that? But how can I also take the time that I need for my own personal development? And I didn't know how to do that,
None of us do. We're figuring out as we go.
But
I love the fact, and this has been really cool to get to know you on a really personal level, and just looking from you on the outside, right? I think everybody would probably say, oh man, Rob's like living the life in Europe. Dude, look at him. He's boozing with this person. He's at this great place. And nobody really understands or sees the pain. And I think that's why, dude, I was going to say, man, it's really brave of you to come out, because it'd be easy to gloss over. I just took some self-care time, but actually get real and say, nah, I kind of was running from my stuff. And now I'm going to own my stuff. And this is what it looks. I think that should inspire anybody, because if a man like you, who's been on the PJs, been on all this stuff, can actually say, nah, I went there and it wasn't as much as I thought, and now I'm rebuilding from this ground level. I think anybody out there could take inspiration from that and say, hey, maybe, you know what, I don't need to escape these things. Maybe I need to fight these things head on. And I mean, I recently made a decision to give up edibles, right? And it's kind of similar. Like, I'd have a stressful day and I'd pop an edible, and then the next day, though, it was magnified. And I'm like, okay, I need to deal with why I'm stressed and figure this out, and then go from there, right? So I think it's really cool that you discovered that.
And the thing about, and we'll kind of get in more about these substances and all that stuff in a bit, but when you talk about that period of depression was rough. And you're right, people could look, and I struggle with this as somebody that is a right-leaning commentator, right? Like, the idea is that you always have to be so perfect all the time, right? You have to be so perfect because the left is doing this and they're pushing this, and I have to be the other example to that. And I think that where right-leaning people fail sometimes is that we don't want to talk about the stuff because other people, you'll say left or whatever, like some people will wallow around in victimhood. And so you want to talk about your stuff, you want to own it, but you also, like, I am not looking for sympathy. I'm more looking to say, you guys, you can look through all of those posts that I was making while I was depressed, and I was still doing my Fox News hits, and I was still on panels with congressmen and women, and I was still taking all the selfies, and outwardly, that was the stuff that I was portraying. And inwardly, there are days that you can't get out of bed. There are days that, you feel like jumping off a balcony, just all of that stuff. But that's okay. And like you said, with moving away from the edibles, like, we have to go through that as human beings sometimes, free of substances, just free of these things that we think are going to make us feel better, but generally make us feel worse.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, man. And I think, there's so many different ways we can go. I'm so curious about a few things, man.
Yeah.
So, okay, if I can back up a little bit and say, you were very left leaning, right?
Yes,
And you had a lot of this stuff. What was your point where you kind of said, man, I'm kind of seeing some of this stuff, and I don't agree with where it's going, and I want to shift? And then I guess when people started reaching out to you, and you said it happened so fast. If you could go back to that point, is there anything you would do differently, I suppose?
Yeah, I think that and we talked offline about Zuby, and this is where Zuby is brilliant, because Zuby is like, I'm not gonna wave the red flag or the blue flag. I'm going to wave the flag of common sense. I'm just gonna talk about common sense, and I'm gonna present to you these common sense facts. If there's anything that I would have done differently, is maybe, and look, I'm a center right leaning guy. I'm probably gonna vote right, like, for the rest of my life. Okay, so this is not saying that, like, I'm not like running over to the left or anything like that. I maybe wouldn't have gone so hard in sort of like the rah 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 Republican Party direction. But here's the thing: I had to see what I saw in what was revealed to me about how politics truly work behind the scenes, to kind of be able to say, well, maybe I went too far in that direction, right? And so I would have done that differently. I think that I also maybe would not have become so consumed by it. And I think, even though my marriage was ending at the times, I think back to things during that initial pop, and I would be somewhere with my husband at the time, and I would be going viral on Twitter, and my face would be on my phone and not present in that moment. And like, that's not why the marriage failed, but that was part of it. So there was a part of me that just was somewhere else when it should have been there, and that comes from not being a fully developed person personally when all of these things happen to you. I'm now at the space in my career where I'm seeing people that are kind of like the new me, where so I'm like seeing people that are doing things and saying things and doing shows and all this stuff that I did 5 years ago, which is great. And some of these people I actually do kind of mentor a little bit, and I'll just drop a text and I'll just be like, I saw you doing this news hit, like, think about this, think about that. Or you just got picked up by this great organization that's going to really elevate you and give you a lot. Think about what your 3 to 5 year plan is for when they are looking for the next new thing, and these are things that nobody really told me, and that I want to impart to some of these younger people. And I think that it can't come from a place of jealousy or envy or anything like that. And even though some of these people will probably elevate much further than I did sort of in that space, it has to come from a space of, I really want you to succeed, but I want you to protect yourself in this world while you're doing it.
That's dude. When I think of that, I just think, your test becomes your testimony, your mess becomes your message, and you're just like a prime example of that. So I guess moving forward, then, Rob, like, how do you founder of Stop Woke. Shout out to Stop Woke. And by the way, we're going to link everything Rob does below. I'm a big participant. Stop Woke. I signed up. We want you guys to sign up below and fight these battles. And we'll get into that here in a bit. But moving forward, how do you compartmentalize that then? And say, because when I see you, man, I see a guy who can just lead.
Yeah.
And just, you're such a leader, and you're way more multifaceted than just political hit. You're brilliant at that. And I think that's necessary, and that's awesome. Dude, you're also fit as a fiddle. Mindset super strong, like habits. Like you have all these other great things. You're in the midst of Whole30, where you just say, hey, I'm just going to do this because I'm going to do this. You're super strong in a lot of areas, man. And I think, how do you compartmentalize then and keep that separate as you move forward?
You know what? I think that what I'm trying to do moving forward, and I'll get into Stop Woke, and you guys can go to stopwoke.com and really sort of look at the content and look at what we're really trying to do. And the reason that I started Stop Woke is, and this is a story about failure as well, because there was something that I launched called the Douglas Society last year, which is going to be like one of the Stop Woke brands, but there was a lot of failure in that launch because I was very new, and there was a lot of stuff that happened. So I learned from that, and I wanted to build even stronger with Stop Woke. And the idea with Stop Woke is that whether you're left or you're right, like this wokeness that we're seeing is a cancer on our culture. It truly is. And I've got two of my best friends in the world are liberals, right? So I do not live in echo chambers. And even they say to me, like, Rob, like, this has gone so far. I feel like I can't say anything. I can't do anything, et cetera, et cetera. And so I started Stop Woke not only as a media company, it's a right-leaning media company. It's going to have a lot of different brands. Like, so Stop Woke is going to be the sort of general right-leaning politics and culture focused brand. We're going to do fitness. We're going to do faith. We're going to do military stuff. And Douglas Society, which was my Black conservative oriented nonprofit, is going to be like sort of like our right-leaning Black arm to that. And these will also all have political action committees and nonprofits connected to each one of the brands. So it's a very, very big vision.
Love the big vision, man.
It's a huge vision. And I worked with a coach for the first time last year, and he would tell me, Rob, think bigger, think bigger, think bigger. Because I do have these gifts, and I'm aware of these gifts. These are talents that God has given to me. And I think that right now they can be used for something that's bigger than simply the political commentary, which I will continue to do because I'm engaged and I like it and I'm good at it, and I earn income, and that's great. It doesn't have to be my entire existence. And I think that Stop Woke is something that not only I can do something to combat what I think is a cancerous part of American culture right now, but what I can also do is to create pathways and to create opportunities. There are so many other leaders in this space that, and I think even just in terms of conservative leaning people on Twitter, and I look at I don't know if you know, her name is Gina Batempo. And Gina,
I love Gina. She's amazing. She's into fitness.
Gina's into fitness. She's a mom. She's incredible. And I met Gina when she used to be Candace Owens's manager, and she used to do stuff with Candace Owens. And so I look at somebody like that, and I'm just like, she's so amazing. How can I create something that will elevate her and like bring that message to more people? How do I look at some of these younger, right-leaning political commentators, but I'm like, this person's got something more than this. And how do we develop this? And how do we say, this guy is not just political commentary, this is a fitness dude as well. And how do we pull him out here and say, you know what, be right-leaning or whatever, but talk about fitness and do that. So I think that there's a lot of blind spots like in this whole movement. And I think that one of the blind spots that I see as I'm talking to donors for Stop Woke, or if I'm just giving general lectures or whatever, is that people in my field tend to be hyper focused on politics, political campaigns, political figures, the presidency, the White House, the Senate, all these other things. There's an entire world out there. And the left has found out how to sort of shape that world in their image. And if I don't start doing this as somebody that is conservative leaning and start building culture in that way, then we're going to lose the culture.
Man, I think there's I'm gonna probably rewatch that 5 times. That's really good. But I'll say this, shout out to Gina too. I love that her brand is sort of, yeah, she throws in politics and common sense a lot, but also, dude, she helps moms lose weight all the time. She's really into healthy mind, body, soul. And I think that overall message, and even you on Twitter yesterday, you fired out a tweet. Hey, I'm kind of going to start talking more about mindset and health. And and I do think there's an overall message here that, look, government's not going to save you either way. And I think, if you're a little more conservative leaning, which I'd say I consider myself center right too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the government to do anything for me except stay out of my way so that I'm responsible for my life and I can go out. And I think combining that message with take personal responsibility, healthy mind, body, soul. And then, yes, let's also go fight these cultural issues that are very necessary, but start within.
Yeah.
Because, man, if I'm the best version of me and I'm raising healthy kids and you are you and everybody watching is too, that's going to change the world as much as anything. So why not combine those messages? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And honestly, that's how we win the culture. I'm going to do, and actually talking to CS, got his name right?
Yes. Shout out to Legacy Builders. I watch this. We'll link him below, and we'll link Gina below too.
No, CS is amazing, and I got to spend a lot of time with him on this retreat, and just being with you guys made me think of just the social media world as so much bigger than what I thought of it as. And look, in politics, I can't be around a lot of these other commentators or influencers or whatever, because it's competitive and people are trying to take your spot and people are trying to gossip about you like, oh well, Rob did this there, blah blah blah, and it's crazy. And so I'm out of that world and I'm with you guys, and I see men that have used social media to not only improve the lives of others, but to connect with each other. Like, I'm going to be doing work with Cole. I'm doing work with CS. Oh, and this is why I brought up CS, because he talks a lot about Twitter threads, and I want to share this story. And this is something I'm going to do a thread on, but this is something that happened to me last night. So yesterday was a long day in Vegas after the retreat. Like, guys, I went on one of Tyler's retreats, and I can literally say that it has changed my life. It has made me view myself in a different way. It has made me view my physicality in a different way. But we were wiped out, wiped out. 9-mile hike, outdoor fitness. Then we did the sand dunes. We nearly burned the bottoms of our feet.
I was praying a lot. Nobody died.
Yeah,
happy about that, man. No serious injuries.
But so I just had a long day yesterday, and I went to see a movie that I really didn't like as well. So it was just a long day in the movie. I saw the Evil Dead movie, and I like horror movies or whatever, but it was just dark and depressing and demonic in a way that was just super draining. And I was like, I don't know if I need to be watching stuff like this anymore. But anyway, so I'm in the Uber on the way back and I get recognized. Okay. And the thing about being a public figure and being recognized in public is that this is what I always have to remember, is that people remember these interactions. And even if you don't feel like flipping the switch and being on and all that. So I got in the car and he recognized me and he was like, well, were you in the Jubilee? And Vice Video was Vice. And I got the sense that he wanted to talk about politics, and I really didn't want to. And I realized that maybe I was being a little rude to the guy. Either way, I was just like, look, dude, I'm not trying to be a dick, but this is kind of where I am right now with the whole political space. And I was just like, it's a bunch of multimillionaires jockeying for their own power. I do not know if these people have our best interests in mind at this point. I've kind of gotten burnt out by it. And so he starts talking about, things are really bad for him right now. Things are really hard. And he's got a kid that he's trying to protect. And he's got a kid that he worries deeply about because of all the indoctrination and all this other stuff. And he's like, man, I'm thinking about moving out of the country because I don't know. And I just said, this country loses when good men decide to give up. That we lose as Americans when good men like you, and I know you're a good man, dude. I know it, because the first thing that you started talking about was your son and your family and providing. And I was like, we're in America. People die trying to get here. And the only way this country loses is if you give up and I give up. And I was like, I'm telling you, dude, I was ready to give all of this. I was ready to just leave it and just go do something else, but I can't give up because I can't give up on this country. And he's like, man, as he drops me off, he's like, man, you really got me thinking about things in a different way. And I'm just like, dude, keep fighting. Keep fighting.
I got chills. That's a gift that you have that's very evident, man. And you know, I always say, shout out, man. Maybe in 10 years we'll watch this. I call you White House Rob. You know?
And
I think you have that gift, man, of leadership, of, you know, whether you use it or not, that's joke, right? But like, you know,
every time they say that, every time the guys say that, I say, why would you wish that horrible life on me? Like, why would you wish?
That's true, man.
Why would you wish that on me?
You're too smart for that, probably.
Oh,
man.
God.
But a couple things there, man. I think, you know, you do have that gift that's very evident, and I look forward to seeing you in the future use that in such great ways, man, to pull people with Stop Woke, with your personal life, with your, you know, whether that's on TikTok, just fired up positivity videos, hit the gym with me. You'll rally people to be the best versions of themselves. And you have such a massive platform and personality to do that. I think that's amazing. I'll take a step back and go to, you know, our retreat for a few days. And how awesome that is, man. And, you know, when I first got into self-improvement, I hired my first coach. I'll never forget, he's coaching me. And I said to him, hey, man, why do you want to make me better? Like, someday I'm probably going to coach. And what if a client chooses me over you? You know, and you kind of talked about that political shuffle and everybody's kind of fighting each other for these spots. And I'll never forget what he said. It changed my life. Zach Hommel, shout out to Zach Hommel. He said, you know, Ty, there's about 3.5 billion people we can help right now, probably, maybe more. If you take 30, 50, 100 a year, awesome. I'm so happy about that, man. And so that kind of shifted my whole perspective. Let's just keep building a bigger pie, right? And now I see that with you, where you're like, maybe in that world 4 or 5 years ago where you kind of are jockeying for position, you got to do this or that. And now with Stop Woke, and you're just like, come on board. Hop in. Let's build. Let's elevate this person, that. But if they're a great voice, let's elevate everybody. And that mindset shift alone is so powerful. Man.
It's a mindset shift. And like, it really is an abundance versus scarcity mindset. So if I'm coming in and I think that there's only enough for just me and I'm jockeying everybody out, then I'm literally creating a scarcity mindset. So I'm creating a scarcity of money, time, opportunity, whatever. And so that has been a shift that has happened. So before, and I talk a lot about sort of, and I don't see Douglas as a failure. Douglas exists, and Douglas is going to do some great things in 2024 that you know, we're putting on the table right now. But I came into Douglas with a mindset like, I have to do this. It just needs to be me. Like, I have to be this guy. And it wasn't really about building or elevating, right? And so, and I got to tell you, it's clear as day, I can see that I'm building something and creating opportunities on all aspects of my life that are going to lead to like just these stupid amounts of money and just like this crazy, you know, private jet. Like I can see it, you know, I like God has put this vision in my head. But at this point right now, it is what version of Rob is going to be living that life. Okay. Because if the Rob from 2022, between 2018 and 2022, if that Rob is living that life, he's going to self-destruct and destroy and be destroyed, because he's going to be indulging in all of the different ways that led me to failure in the past. So I'm trying to take this step back, build my sort of inner fortress, build out like, what are my priorities? What are my goals? Who do I want? How do I want to be seen in this world and in this space? And when those things are aligned, when that stuff happens, fantastic, man. Great. Let's make some money. Let's elevate some people. Let's, you know, eradicate sort of like this cancer of wokeness in America. Like, let's really do this big. But I have to come to it with a different mindset.
Yeah. I think sometimes God doesn't, he protects us almost from letting us get to new levels. Like I was blessed with a lot of money for my, you know, I grew up lower middle class too. In poker, I hit it big. I made 7 figures by the time I'm 25 playing poker. And dude, I squandered most of it. Same thing, just indulging dumb stuff, right? I wasn't really ready for that. I make less money now and we have 10 times as much because I feel like it's an abundance mindset. We give first. All these things I kind of built from that ground level up. And when you go at it with that, man, it's just a different level. Even my Twitter, my social media stuff, I pray every day. It's not really mine. Hey, God, take this where you want. It's not me. It's whatever you want me to go. And I feel like it's so apparent. Everybody with you, man, everybody who comes across from you sits and says, Rob, dude, you're destined. It's laid out before you. You're here for such a time as this. Man. It's so important. We can see your mission. We can see where you're going. And it's just really cool to see you stepping into that, but building first within so that when the massive amounts of success, fame, whatever you want to call it, does hit you again, dude, you're still the same Rob, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, let's just go to the gym.
Yeah. When you know, everybody wants that moment and everybody wants sort of this fame or this notoriety or whatever. Very few people are prepared for the negative aspects that come with this because there's no guidebook on how to be famous. Nobody says, okay, well, hey, you have 1 million followers on social media and now you're being seen as this political figure. And now, people are attacking you in clubs and doing all this other stuff. There's no guidebook on how to deal with that, right? So I know that these things are about to start becoming very big. And I know that this is, my life is going to be, there's an element of my life that is going to be doing a lot of traveling, talking with great people like you and talking with awful people like politicians. And so that's going to be a part of my life. But if I don't ground and center myself into what is my prayer life like what is my fitness life like, what is my alcohol like what is my eating like what are all of these things, because you can, and I think Candace Owens she had done some stories, but she will literally do stories of herself at the gym at like 5:15 in the morning, because it's not only a major political figure, but this is also a wife and a mother, and also leads her own organization, right?
Yeah.
And so at some point, she made the decision that if I'm going to do this and be all of these things, like I have to get so right, And I think that all of the major players, even Charlie Kirk, like back when I was with Turning Point USA as national spokesperson, and I was, feeling my fame and my celebrity and all this other stuff, being at these events. Oh, I'm going to have this wine and I'm going to do all this stuff. And they would say, like, I don't know that Charlie doesn't drink at all, but I know that Charlie doesn't drink at events. And he never did. And they would say, well, Charlie doesn't drink at events. Well, like, whatever, like, I'm gross, I'm going to do what I want to. But now I get it. Because you cannot operate at these levels and be indulging. Because if you are indulging, your output is going to be diminished. And if I want to get to the point, like if I want to be somebody like you one day, where like you're a husband and you're a father and you have a business and you keep your health and fitness under control and like all of that other stuff, that's important.
5:05 alarm, man. Every day. You got to do it, right? There's just no other way. And you win the morning, you win the day. Look at a person like Candace, too, I feel like, or somebody like that, these massive 10 million followers.
Yeah.
Right? You imagine the amount of hate a person gets like that daily.
Yeah.
Well, how do you deal with that? You know who you are within. You know who you are through God. You know who you are through your health, your family. And once you're rock solid there, in what some stranger says on the internet,
no, it
doesn't bother you, right?
Well, when you talk about, and I call them death threat famous, right? So when you talk about the Ben Shapiros and the Candace Owenses and the Matt Walshes and the Charlie Kirks, like Candace Owens has to have a full-time security detail, okay? Like full-time. That's the amount of.
What did she say that's people... that controversial too? Like that's the crazy thing to
so
me.
this is what I call it. And the reason that I'm able to exist in the space that I exist in is because I've never had the hate machine turned on me. So I call it the hate machine. So at a certain point in time, and this happened to Candace a lot, like when she first, is one of the things that made her as famous as she is, but she'd have this hate machine on the left turned on her, right? And every left-leaning political commentator smearing Candace, GIFs, and she's this and she's that, blah, blah, blah. What happened to Joe Rogan? Smearing Joe Rogan, this, that, blah, blah, blah. What is happening to Matt Walsh right now? Matt Walsh is this, Matt Walsh is that, blah, blah, blah. So these people hit a level to where that hate machine was turned on them. And they had, the backing in the fortress of, companies that were strongly behind them or wealth or whatever that insulates them from that. I can exist in the world because I've never hit that point where I've had that machine turned on me. I do not know if I can exist. I do not know that if the work that I'm trying to do right now, if it becomes successful in the way in that I think it will be successful, I do not know that machine will not one day be turned on me. So that now
these were the tolerant people that
right? Exactly. And so now I become a person where, I'm in Vegas right now, and if somebody recognizes me on the street, it's like, oh yeah, Vice Video, good job. Well, like I don't necessarily have to worry about people attacking me or trying to kill me or anything like that. I don't know if that'll be the case if I'm super successful and really becoming impactful. And that's something that I'm gonna pray not only for the success of this project, which I think is a very great idea, but also pray for the protection from some of the hate that will come with the success.
Yeah, I think that's really wise, man, to see that going forward, and that's something I'll add to my prayers for you daily too, buddy.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate
Well,
it.
let's go that direction of stop woke now too, man, because for anybody out here maybe who's listening, well, what's woke? What's that mean? What are you even fighting against? Maybe we can just lay a base level for anybody who's kind of insulated. I think some of my audience is like, dude, I haven't watched news in 6 years. I don't know what's going on with this stuff. So maybe lay a groundwork, tell a couple stories, why you think this is so important. It's a cancer to our country, and how you're going to defeat it.
Okay, so this is how I define woke. Woke is a set of, there were either well-intentioned policies or ideas at the very beginning that were intended to correct some form of historical discrimination. These policies or ideas were intended to sort of fix the historical maybe racism that African Americans face, or discrimination that like gay guys face, or anything like that. And then eventually, what is initially a good idea becomes sort of overtaken by leftist ideology. And when leftism overtakes something, there is never an end to it. And so that to me is wokeness. So the intention, we'll just even talk about gay marriage, right? So that's not, maybe, that is something that people may or may not disagree with, whatever. That's not inherently woke. It's saying, okay, there's this community that deserves equal protection under the law. Great. Whether you agree with it or believe in it biblically or whatever is neither here nor there. Let's talk about it as just a legal philosophy, right? And so now that happens, then here comes the leftism. And so now it's not just about that, or it's not just about serving the military. Now it's about 100 genders in schools. And now it's about 20 different flags. And now it's about Blue's Clues and your, toddlers programming that is for him has to be filled with all of this stuff. So like that's wokeness. Okay. And that's kind of like the baseline. Even if you talk about the African American community, yes, racism is real. Historical discrimination exists. Like we all know these things. Okay. That's like saying the sky is blue. But if you would say, okay, well, affirmative action, which is this thing that was supposed to fix these historical inequalities, then that becomes equity, and that becomes, tens of millions of dollars to this program or that program. And then that becomes, even under this administration, a program that says, if you're a white person, you cannot apply for this farmer's grant because this is for Black people. And so wokeness makes this stuff exactly what it was intended to try to correct. And I think that it's important for me, as somebody that's founding this company, to be able to come up with that definition of wokeness like that, because that's how people try to get you. No, I know what this is. And so stopping this in the United States military, the military is one aspect of this. You've got recruitment is down, standards are down. And this is not a politically correct thing to say. I was a U.S. Army infantry. Infantry is all male for a reason. Women cannot physically do the job of an infantryman. Okay. And so when we lower the standards that say, well, women can be infantry too, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we weaken our United States military, right? And that's not to say that women can't serve. I'm not saying that at all.
We're different and complementary, but there's just some things.
There are physical, biological differences, right? And so that's some stuff that we see in the military. So, and even in dealing with corporate America, and it's something that I'm launching through Stop Woke in the next month and a half is what I'm calling we're gonna hit the HRC has something called the Corporate Equality Index. And what a lot of people don't know is that when we're seeing the Dylan Mulvaney and the trans stuff and the Bud Light and all that other stuff, these companies are like forced to do these things so that they can score highly on the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index, which is basically like this grift and this racket that they have all of these corporations afraid that they're going to score low on this thing. And the idea that I'm bringing is like, hey, by definition, 49 to 51% of your employees do not agree with any of this stuff. So why are you still doing this? And so we have to highlight the things that some of these corporations are doing that may not be your values or my values as Americans, as right-leaning people, or even as centrist liberals. So these are all of the different ways, and I won't even get into the education system because there's some people doing some great work on that aspect, and I think that what we can do with Stop Woke is that we can raise money to support certain people, and we can also fund, different moms that are running for school board across the country, all that stuff. Right. It's like, man, I can talk about it forever because it is just so deeply embedded in the society that I do not even think that people realize how far it goes.
Yeah, it's almost like when I hear you speak, and maybe you can tell me if you think this is accurate, but it's like a pendulum, right? So, okay, racism was obviously a massive issue, still is to this day, right? Yeah. But we've swung the pendulum and we've helped a lot with certain programs, certain things, right? But then once the pendulum swings, okay, now I see it as in some universities, okay, you can't get in if you're a certain,
yes,
and that instead of just the best person, and maybe we need to fix. I always say you need to start to try to fix things at ground level, right?
Yeah.
Like, a good example is, if I volunteered at school in inner city Chicago when I was in my young 30s. I thought at that time, well, everybody in America has equal opportunity. Dude, some of these schools have 55 students, one teacher, no technology. So, we need to fight those things instead of saying, well, hey man, let's create a level playing field.
Yeah.
And then the best will rise. And you go from there. But now I'm seeing ideas where sort of this wokeness saying, well, we're going to separate black people and white people at colleges. And it's like, didn't we fight to repeal that? Didn't we, and it seems odd to me that when I go out in the world with a black son, an Asian son, and a white daughter, dude, 99.999%. You told me this, put your feet on grass. When you get off of social media and put your feet on grass,
touch grass.
I think so many people are just kind and will even come up to me and say, oh man, you got a great looking family. Like, thank you. You got a great looking family. But online, people behind a screen might shout this or that. And I think to me, that's a lot of the answer is, like you were saying, Rob 2.0, right? Like unplug and realize just because you're fighting these battles here, go put your feet on grass for part of every day. And you'll realize a lot of us are in the middle, man. I mean, again, I'm probably center right. The first time I ever voted was Obama in 08, baby. Hope and change, right? Like I'll still vote. I'm right in that area. Common sense. And I feel like what percentage do you think are in that area? It's got to be a big percent.
So many people are, and this is what I think, and this is what nobody will ever be able to convince me otherwise, is that people are fundamentally good. I think that people fundamentally want to do the right thing. They want to be, they want to be sort of welcoming. They want to be open and all that other stuff. And the people that are on the very far left and the very far right in this country sort of like take advantage of that openness either way, because they want to pull people because what a lot of people don't understand is that the enhancement of this division is what brings people money and power.
Oh man, that hits.
And
if we're all together, you can't go make $180K a year as a congressperson and then come out 8 years later with a $400 million network. That doesn't happen if people are looking at it, right?
It doesn't. And I think that like I said, when people get off of sort of that, and honestly, and I've had to take, and I think Tucker Carlson did sort of like an interview about this, like right before he left Fox or was fired or whatever happened. But he was just like, I played a role in the division of our society. And I think that's what another thing that I had to come to terms with last year was a really rough year. Like I had to come to terms with like, well, what's my role in all this? What have I said and what have I done and what have I put out there that has contributed to this? Because if I keep on saying and doing and all the things that I'm doing right now, like Republican, right, the left, blah, 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 what am I doing to help bring Americans together? Which is fundamentally what I really wanted to do the entire time. I said, if somebody like me, like if this black gay dude can get out there and say, I'm right leaning or like I'm voting for Trump and this is why, like I was like, maybe I can get people to kind of understand different perspectives. And that just was not the case. That was I get demonization from the left.
Maybe it was a little bit of the case from some people who just didn't even have the courage to tell you, but maybe you did inspire some people that said,
maybe
this or that.
Let's hope so. But I think that fundamentally, man, people are good. People are good. there's no red America, there's no blue America, there's the United States of America. There's pockets of purple everywhere. And I think that most people are purple. And I think that when more people sort of, if you're gonna be terminally online, like follow at Tyromper, you know what I mean? Like follow some of these guys, like follows, engage in the content of people that are trying to fill your mind with something different. That is why you're so successful. That's why Zuby is so successful.
99.6% of all of our DNA is exactly the same.
Yes.
99, however you vote, look, act, think, whatever,
Yes.
we're exactly the same. So we have so much more in common than we don't. And I love something you said even, a little bit ago. I have a lot of left-leaning friends. Dude, I have friends that, one of my best buddies, I would say, is a dude that lives in San Francisco. Shout out to Elliot.
Yeah.
We're going to vote probably different every time. We're going to think, but I love having respectful dialogue with him because, dude, he's an amazing father. He's an amazing husband. He's an amazing business guy. Like I admire so many things about him, and we ultimately want the same things. We might have a little different vision, but I love him because he'll move me a little farther that way. Yeah. And I hope I maybe, and we always end up meeting in the middle, which is amazing, man.
Because fundamentally, and I think one of the reasons that I went so hard in one direction, like, coming out and becoming a prominent sort of conservative political figure very quickly wreaked havoc in relationships that I had from people that knew me before any of this stuff. And there are a lot of people that made the decision to, I had fraternity brothers disinvite me from their weddings. You know what I mean? Like I was basically completely cut off by people that I loved. And I considered, brothers in a different way. And, lost my best friend, lost all of my friends. So a lot of the strife that came with that, you're just like, well, screw all of you guys. Like, I'm really this, blah, blah, blah. And then you move to one side of the aisle, and then you're sort of like enveloped in this whole culture. And you're like, okay, well, these are my friends now, and this is whatever, and this is whatever. And then you start realizing that people have different agendas, right? And so now, having come out of all of that stuff, 5 years later, it's more about who do I want to be surrounded with, like, as a man, like who's gonna, iron sharpens iron, what I mean? So it's like, who are these people that I'm going to be around? And honestly, I'm going to be completely honest, the people that I enjoy spending the most real time with are not in that world. They are not in that world. They are not driven by that world. They are just not obsessed with that world. And that's who spending time with people like you and the people on the retreat and my other friends or whatever, spending time with people that are not in that world are what has grounded me and brought me back to reality. And the reason that so many people in that world seem like they don't live on the same planet as we do is because they don't. It's because they live in that bubble. They are surrounded in that world all the time. And like, there are a lot of those people that need to step outside of that world and touch grass a little bit as well.
And maybe that's, another mission that you'll do, and people will say, oh man, Rob's just really mentally, physically healthy. Like, I want that, right?
Yeah.
He's locked in, mind, body, soul. I want that. How do I get that? Maybe you'll have a lot of opportunities like that moving forward. I think that it's just sad to me that somebody could be like your best friend, your brother for a long time. Yeah. And because you might vote different.
Yeah.
That is so sad to me, man. That, like, if that stuff happens, that just shows more of the problem of how divided we are.
Yeah, and you know what I will say about that, and fundamentally, and I've had to come to this conclusion, and I say this without emotion or without anger or all of that other stuff. It's just that these were weak men.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised what I've learned over the past 5 years and coming through this, whatever. Like, you're a very strong man. I'm a strong man. We know strong men. We have strong men in our circles. And you will be shocked at how fundamentally weak most men in American society are nowadays.
And do you think that's probably a whole different? We could do 5 hours on
that.
That's probably for a reason, right?
Yes.
There's a reason, like, porn's free. There's a reason all this stuff is normal, right? To weaken a lot of men. But I appreciate you fighting back against these battles, man.
Yeah,
I know we could talk all day, but we got to hit the gym at some point.
Yeah, we gotta get a lift.
But man, I appreciate who you are as a man, as a leader. Dude, I think so highly of you, man. I think you were created for such a time as this. I look forward to where you go. Again, I'm gonna link everything our man here, Rob Smith, does. Rob's in my phone as Rob Smith with a bunch of American flags.
Nice.
This guy's a hero. Thank you for your service, man. Rob 2.0, it's gonna be amazing. I just can't wait to see everything you accomplish. Maybe leave the people with one last thing. And then, guys, we're going to link everything Rob does below. Give this guy a follow on Facebook, on Insta, on Twitter. We're coming out with TikTok.
Now
right?
TikTok. I mean, I'm there.
You're there. Okay.
I'm there.
We'll link
there.
everything he does below. And sign up for Stop Woke too, man. This is an important issue.
Yeah.
That, we could hit even more, but again, we got to lift some weight.
I think the thing that I want to leave anybody that's watching and listening to this with is that at any point, you can always make the decision to change your life. You can do these things. It will not be easy. It will take some work. But if you do the work, you can change your life and you can step into the life that you truly want to live.
Amen, brother. We can't end it on a better note than that, man. I love
Absolutely.
that. Wherever you guys are today, man, take a hard look, and you can redefine yourself at any moment. I love that, man. Well, dude, you're a living inspiration to me, to countless others, man. And I admire the heck out of you, brother. Let's go pump some iron.
Let's do it. I'm
feeling
a little small right
let's
now.
look at these guys' arms, man. You guys go have the greatest day of your life. I always say this to end it. Bless up. Be kind to yourself first. Be kind to others all around you. Let's go change the world one interaction at a time, baby. Go have the greatest day of your lives.